The year is 1815. Europe, a continent still reeling from the bitter taste of warfare under the leadership of a military genius named Napoleon Bonaparte, was attempting to rebuild the shattered remnants of empires and ambitions. However, fate had other plans, a scheme originating far to the east, on a volcanic island called Sumbawa, nestled in the heart of the Indonesian archipelago. There, towering majestically, stood Mount Tambora, its peak estimated to reach over 14,000 feet above sea level, a natural crown concealing immense hidden power. For centuries, Tambora had silently stored its energy. Local inhabitants may have felt minor tremors, observed wisps of smoke rising from its crater, but none could have foreseen the sheer magnitude of the mountain's impending wrath. Until one day in April 1815, the skies above Sumbawa began to stir. Small eruptions, lasting for several days, served as the initial signs of a catastrophe that would rock the world. The rumbling grew louder, echoing through the heavens, followed by increasing ejections of volcanic materials such as incandescent rocks and hot ash. The climax arrived on April 10th. On that night, around 7 p.m. local time, Mount Tambora erupted with a force that defied comprehension. The initial explosion was so immense that it felt like a minor apocalypse to the surrounding population. The mountain's proud summit seemed to split and collapse entirely. The eruption column soared into the atmosphere, estimated to reach an astonishing height of over 27 miles. To put that in perspective, commercial airliners typically cruise at around 6 miles. This was a VEI-7, Volcanic Explosivity Index 7, eruption, the second highest level on the scale, measuring the power of volcanic eruptions, surpassed only by supervolcanoes. The volume of volcanic material ejected by Tambora is estimated to be over 38 cubic miles. Imagine a colossal cube with sides exceeding 3 miles, filled with ash, rock, and searing hot pyroclastic flows, blasted into the air and spreading in all directions. Massive tsunamis, reaching heights of over 13 feet, crashed onto the coastlines of neighboring islands, devastating villages and claiming thousands of lives. Total darkness enveloped the daytime for days in the vicinity of the mountain, and thick ashfall transformed fertile landscapes into desolate gray wastelands. It is estimated that over 10,000 people perished instantly due to the eruption and its immediate aftermath on Sumbawa and the surrounding islands. However, the impact of Tambora's eruption did not remain confined to the Indonesian archipelago. Billions of tons of fine volcanic particles, primarily sulfate aerosols, were thrust high into the stratosphere. These particles, only a few micrometers in diameter, but astronomical in number, were capable of persisting in the atmosphere for months, even years, carried by global winds to reach Europe and other parts of the world. This layer of sulfate aerosols acted like a giant veil, reflecting a portion of the sun's radiation back into space, leading to a significant global temperature decrease. The following year, 1816, became known as the Year Without a Summer. In Europe and North America, spring arrived late, followed by a cold and wet summer. Bizarre weather phenomena occurred everywhere. Snow was reported in June in parts of Europe. Frost repeatedly ravaged newly planted crops, even in July and August, which should have been the peak of summer. Torrential rains and storms, accompanied by thunder and strong winds, continuously battered the land, causing widespread flooding and unprecedented crop failures. Imagine the farmers, who would normally rejoice at the sight of golden wheat fields and vineyards laden with grapes, now faced with the grim reality of their crops rotting and dying due to the relentless cold and excessive moisture. Food prices skyrocketed multiple times over. Famine gripped Europe, from Ireland to Russia. In some areas, desperation drove people to consume their pets, wild animals, and there were even grim reports of cannibalism due to extreme starvation. Riots and looting erupted in cities plagued by food shortages and unemployment resulting from the agricultural collapse. Diseases such as typhus, dysentery, and cholera spread rapidly due to poor sanitation, malnutrition, weakening immune systems, and the movement of refugees searching for food, claiming hundreds of thousands of lives across Europe between 1816 and 1819. Amidst this bleak and uncertain atmosphere, Europe was once again confronted with the specter of war. Napoleon Bonaparte, the ambitious former emperor, had escaped his exile on the island of Elba and was once again gathering his forces, capitalizing on the chaos and political instability in Europe. The continent once more braced itself for a decisive battle. The pivotal battle unfolded on a plain near the village of Waterloo, in what is now Belgium. On June 18, 1815, Napoleon's forces clashed with the Allied army under the command of the Duke of Wellington and the Prussian forces led by Gebhard von Blücher. Both sides fielded tens of thousands of soldiers, prepared to fight to the bitter end. Supposedly, this epic battle should have unfolded under clear summer skies, with the sun illuminating the colorful uniforms and glinting off swords and bayonets. However, the weather at Waterloo that day was profoundly unfavorable, as if nature itself was reluctant to witness further bloodshed. The night before, relentless, heavy rain had soaked the battlefield, transforming what should have been dry, firm ground into a quagmire of clinging mud, severely hindering the movement of troops and war equipment. Let us visualize the conditions on that sodden battlefield. The heavy cannons, the mainstay of Napoleon's artillery, which should have been rapidly deployed to decimate enemy formations, were difficult to maneuver and reposition, their wheels bogged down in the thick mud. The cavalry horses, intended as swift and deadly striking forces, struggled to gain firm footing on the slick and muddy terrain, reducing their speed and the effectiveness of their charges. Complex tactical maneuvers became significantly more challenging and slow to execute, negating the advantages Napoleon's forces usually possessed in terms of agility and coordination. Napoleon, a commander renowned for his strategies of rapid attack and surprise, often exploiting terrain to his advantage, was forced to delay his main assault until midday, hoping that the weak sunlight filtering through the dark clouds might slightly dry the waterlogged battlefield. This delay proved to be a crucial advantage for his adversaries. Wellington gained more time to reinforce his defensive positions, and Blücher managed to arrive with the crucial Prussian reinforcements precisely at the critical moment when the French forces were beginning to show signs of fatigue and losses. When the attack finally commenced, the French troops had to struggle through mud that sucked at their boots, facing an enemy defense that was well prepared and waiting in solid formations. The tactical brilliance and fighting spirit that usually characterized Napoleon's Grande Armée seemed to be stifled by the adverse ground conditions and the uncooperative weather. Wave after wave of valiant assaults failed to break through the Allied lines, which were increasingly bolstered by the arrival of the Prussian reinforcements. Several historians and scientists argue that the poor weather that plagued Waterloo was not merely a coincidence or bad luck. They believe that the global climate anomaly caused by the dust and sulfate aerosols from the massive eruption of Mount Tambora significantly contributed to the heavy rainfall that occurred the night before and during the Battle of Waterloo. These volcanic particles in the upper atmosphere could have acted as cloud condensation nuclei, increasing precipitation and causing temperatures to be lower than usual for mid-June in that region. If this theory holds true, then Napoleon's defeat at Waterloo was not solely attributable to the superior tactics of his enemies or his own strategic miscalculations, but also to the immense and unpredictable power of nature, originating from a volcanic explosion thousands of miles away on a small island in the eastern archipelago. An eruption that sent ash into the stratosphere, altered the climate of Europe, and unknowingly may have penned the tragic final chapter of the reign of a great emperor on the muddy fields of Waterloo. The decisive defeat at Waterloo brought an end to Napoleon Bonaparte's military career forever and marked the close of his era of dominance that had shaken Europe for over 2 decades. He was once again exiled to a remote island in the Atlantic Ocean and died a few years later. Europe entered a new era, a period of political and social reconstruction after years of war and revolutionary upheaval. This tragic tale serves as a powerful reminder of the intricate and interconnected nature of the world's systems, even in a past that predates the technology and globalization we experience today. A natural disaster in a distant location can have far-reaching and unforeseen consequences in places thousands of miles away, influencing not only the environment and daily lives of people, but also the course of history and the destinies of rulers. The devastating eruption of Mount Tambora was not merely a local tragedy for the people of Sumbawa, but a global event that played a role in shaping the 19th century political and social landscape of 19th century Europe, and perhaps even determined the end of one of history's most iconic figures on a waterlogged battlefield. Nature, in all its unpredictable grandeur and power, often plays unseen and decisive roles in the grand drama of human history. And the story of Mount Tambora's eruption and its far-reaching impact, extending all the way to the Battle of Waterloo, stands as one of its most dramatic and thought-provoking examples.